Stay frosty and check out redzonecoins.com for the cheapest, fastest coins on the market. Use code DIRECTOR at checkout for 15% off.
Kia ora, brothers. What's up? It's the Director. Chargers fans, we got a pretty big game coming up on Sunday, facing up against the 2-4 Denver Broncos. Now, obviously, any division opponent should be taken seriously, but this Denver team has proven to have one of the more efficient defenses in football. And it'll definitely be a test for Justin Herbert. A loss here would throw the Chargers into the basement of the AFC West. A win, though, could potentially land us in second place, pending on a loss by the Raiders versus the Cleveland Browns. And even if the Raiders win that game, we'll have a shot to overtake them next week when we do play Vegas. Now, before we go on any further, I do need to update you guys really quickly on what's going on with me and the channel. I won't get into too much detail, but as some of you know, my family and I have tested positive for COVID. I'm telling you guys this just in case my content seems a little bit off or the videos all of a sudden seem a little inconsistent. I don't anticipate this causing me to stop making content, but I do have my ups and downs in the day. Most of the day, there's some sweeping fatigue, a little bit of a slight cough, and maybe a lack of focus, but not enough for me to halt production, at least not yet. So I'll keep you guys updated on my Twitter and on my YouTube community tab on how I'm feeling and if I ever need to take a day. I've already received so many kind messages from you guys. I just wanted to say thank you for all your continued support. We'll get through this. Seriously, you guys have been awesome. But for now, we do carry on because we do have a big game coming up on Sunday, man. A game that I'm too excited just not to talk about. Nothing's going to keep me down from talking about this. This is a must-win game for the Chargers. And I'm going to give you guys everything you need to know with this matchup. And a slight spoiler, I like our odds. But before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. With that, guys, let's get into this video. Lights, camera,
action.
The 2-4 Chargers are taking on the 2-4 Broncos this Sunday, and only one will walk away with an improved record, forcing the other into last place in the division. As I said, this is a must-win scenario for the Bolts. Now, before we start dissecting this game and diving into the injury report, I do need to update you guys on if this game is happening at all, because unfortunately, we ain't done talking about COVID yet. Chargers guard Ryan Groy and Broncos guard Graham Glasgow have both tested positive. Now, the Chargers were really quick to respond. After another round of testing, it seems that we're in the clear. For the Broncos, I'm not as certain on their status, but it seems, at least for right now, the game will be played as scheduled. Mike Kliss, a reporter that covers the Bronco, just tweeted this a few hours ago. League sources just let me know the Broncos-Chargers game is not in jeopardy despite a player on each team having positive COVID tests. Broncos-Chargers kickoff at 2:05 p.m. this Sunday. So it seems like we should be good to go, but just keep in mind if there's any complications, there's a slight possibility that this game does get moved back. And if I hear anything, I'll let you guys know on Twitter as well. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of this game, starting with this week's injury report. Now, as of recording this video, the full injury report for Friday has yet to be released, so we'll be taking a look at Thursday's status and go from there. Some notable names on the Chargers here to pay attention to. Brian Bulaga has once again gotten back to limited practices. I'm very hopeful that he suits up on Sunday. The Broncos still have a really nasty pass rush, and Bulaga would offer some relief on the right side. Melvin Ingram is back on the injury report after being activated last week coming off of IR. He did get a little banged up in last week's game, but I suspect he'll be good to go on Sunday. But once again, Trey Turner finds himself not practicing. This is very disheartening. He hasn't seen the field in a long time, and I have no idea when we can expect him back, but my guess is if he was still a long ways away from starting, the Chargers would have put him on IR by now. So here's hoping we see him next week versus the Raiders. Now on the Broncos side, limited practices by Atauchu and Jake, but keep an eye on them anyway because they're pretty decent. Who else can we expect to see out? Philip Lindsay, Tim Patrick, Deontay Spencer. Outside of that, these guys seem to be pretty healthy and ready to go. But I think the biggest name I do want to highlight here is Phillip Lindsay. Having him out means that we are about to see a lot more Melvin Gordon this game, and that helps me segue into my next segment, the revenge game. Now, I'm sure most of you know that Melvin Gordon did leave the Chargers last offseason and signed with our division rival, the Denver Broncos. Yeah, I didn't like that. But ultimately, it's because he asked for too much money, and we already had who was, in my opinion, a better running back in Austin Eckler. And it seems Gordon wasn't too pleased with the Bolts. Now, this puts us in a revenge game scenario for Sunday, a game where Gordon will want to prove the Chargers that we made a mistake letting him go. Now, most of this is just dramatic context, but the fact of the matter is we often do see skilled position players, add an extra step versus their former teams. Now, I'm a little worried that Gordon will pop off in this one, because last week versus the Jaguars, the Chargers gave up 119 yards and a score to James Robinson. And it seemed every time he got the ball, there was a lane to be found somewhere in our defensive line. With Drew Lock struggling in the passing game, the Chargers struggling against the run game, I can expect to see a lot of Gordon out there on Sunday. And on top of that, Phillip Lindsay is out, so we should see even more of Gordon than we normally would. But you know what? I don't think that's going to matter much, because outside of Gordon, that's really all I'm especially worried about. Drew Lock looks like a mess, and this has limited his other two playmakers in Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant. He's been so bad, in fact, that I do think the Chargers have a shot at picking up not one, but 2 interceptions this game. But the fact of the matter is the Broncos only scored over 21 points once this year, and it was against the crumbling Jets. As a matter of fact, I'll do you one better. Here you go. Here are the scores for this season: 14, 21, 10, 37, again against the Jets, 18, 16. A total of 106 points scored in 6 weeks, an average of 17.6 points per game. Now, in comparison, the Chargers have scored 149 points, an average of 24.8 points per game. And Justin Herbert is heating up, because in our last 3 games, he's averaged 32.3 points. That is insane. So this leads me to my most important segment of this game, the Chargers offense versus the Broncos defense. Now, the Broncos defense is no joke. Specifically, they possess an above average pass rush. They sacked Mahomes 4 times last week, a quarterback that's been notoriously hard to take down. And on top of that, you add a bad offensive line for the Chargers, that definitely spells trouble. Except for one thing: Justin Herbert has proven to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league when faced against pressure. His mobility is evident, going for over 60 yards and a touchdown on the ground last week. His QBR when faced against pressure is a staggering 100.9. Yeah, he's really hard to keep down, and he's going to be even harder to contain this week, as we also do have a secret weapon versus Denver: Slayer. Just as I can see Melvin Gordon having a good game against us, I can see Keenan Allen having a great game versus Denver. Doesn't it seem that since he was drafted, he's always had something special in store against Denver? You notice that? He always seems to ball out. A touchdown is almost guaranteed when facing up against the Broncos. But director, the Broncos have proven to be pretty tough against the pass this year. Well, I don't think that matters much when it comes to Keenan Allen. This man's faced up against the no-fly zone, or whatever it was called. I see him putting up around 90 yards and a score this week, maybe more, because Herbert and Allen have really been building a strong chemistry, and I do expect to see that on full display this week. So what about Herbert? Well, this guy's been on pace to break several records, even having missed week 1 versus the Bengals. So how will he fare in this game? I don't think he slows down. Part of me thinks it won't be as dominant performance as we saw last week, but maybe throwing just under 300 yards and 2 scores, which really is still a great day for any quarterback in the league. But another part of me thinks that's an easy undersell. If I'm going with my gut here, I think Herbert surpasses 300 yards yet again and puts up 3 touchdowns. I'm a little more worried that he adds a pick to that stat line this week, but regardless, I think the Broncos are not ready for Justin Herbert. After 15 years of facing up against Phillip Rivers, the Broncos are about to face a whole new beast, a quarterback that can escape the pocket and throw dimes under pressure. So what's my prediction for this game? I think you're gonna like it. Chargers 31, Broncos 13. Sure, Melvin Gordon gets his touchdown and feels good for a few minutes, but ultimately I think the Chargers show that their offense is one of the more deadly in the league, adding another high score this week versus a pretty decent defense. Now, this doesn't mean we should take this matchup lightly. slightly, anything can happen, especially in a division game. But from what my eyes are telling me, Drew Lock sucks. The Broncos are trending down. Justin Herbert is amazing. The Chargers are trending up. And if Herbert can get his first division win versus the Broncos this week, I think we're in great shape heading into week 9 versus the Raiders. Well, guys, that's all I got for today's week 8 game preview. What do you guys think in the comment section below? How do you think this game is going to shape out? What do you think the score is going to be? And more importantly, what are the parts of the Denver Broncos that you're most worried about in offense, on defense? Because when I look at them, their offense is struggling quite a bit, and their defense, as good as it is, I think is very much so beatable by what I've seen from the Chargers and how the Chargers are operating these last few weeks. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been the Director. If you did enjoy this content, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. And if you guys want to see my reactions live as the game is going on, hit up my Twitter right here, Kiwi_filmmaker. I'm always posting during the game. It's usually a good time. Well, again, guys, we'll see you next time. This has been the Director. As always, bolt up and stay frosty.